Hello YouTube, my name is Nero and today some Call of Duty Black Ops 3 playing the beta, and what we're going to be doing with this video is making a rather short one discussing combat records and why I believe a good combat record system in Call of Duty can make you enjoy Call of Duty even more than you already do, and it can possibly make you want to continue to play Call of Duty even more than you already do. So we've done a number of videos here on my channel talking about different ideas I have for the Call of Duty franchise, different little implementations that they could put in here or there that I think would improve the franchise as a whole, not just Black Ops 3, but every Call of Duty game in general. And of course, I made videos discussing that. You guys gave your responses to that in the comments. I made a video talking about your guys' responses and different ideas that you guys have for the Call of Duty franchise. Well, I kind of want to expand upon that a little bit in today's video by discussing combat records and why a good combat record system is a great thing for Call of Duty and why you can make Call of Duty even more fun for the mass majority of people out there. So the combat record in Call of Duty has always been a very interesting thing for me. The first combat record we saw, aside from just KD, win-loss ratio, and maybe overall score, which is what we saw in Call of Duty 4, World at War, and in Modern Warfare 2, in Black Ops 1 we got the combat record, and from the combat record we were able to see a ridiculous amount of stats, and I love that. You were able to see how many grenades you've thrown, how many times you've called in kill streaks, how many kills you've gotten with kill streaks, how many kills you got with guns, what's your best KD ratio with that particular gun. You know, all these different stats and all these different little factoids and pieces of information. I love that so much. I think it comes from my kind of like lifelong passion of sports. I love sports and all the stats that go into that. You know, I think they said Marcus Mariota, who's a quarterback for the Titans, he made his first start and he was actually facing Jameis Winston, who was also a rookie. But Mariota threw for 4 touchdowns in his first ever game, and the last quarterback to throw for 4 touchdowns in their first game was Fran Tarkenton, I think they said, or something along those lines. And it's like, how did they keep track of these stats? Like, how do they always end up finding these little factoids, these little bits of information? I love that so much. And I like finding out little stats like that in Call of Duty. I like finding out little stats like that in video games. Like, how many miles have I walked in this video game? It's a completely random stat, but it's something I would like to know just because it's a nice little interesting factoid. Like, wow, I've literally ran like halfway across the circumference of the world in my overall combined playtime of Call of Duty Black Ops 2 or something like that. I don't know, little factoids like that I think are pretty interesting. We see those sometimes down there in this little ticker at the very bottom of the screen when you're actually at the main menu or in a pregame lobby in Call of Duty, but we don't really get to see that kind of stuff when it comes to combat records. We do get a good amount of information from our combat records, but I would like even more information. And what kind of inspired this idea was I was watching a Wings of Redemption video, and he was talking about camping in Call of Duty. If you guys want to check it out, I'll put a link to it down there in the video description, I suppose, where he was basically talking about kill-death ratio and camping and versus rushing and why you should not critique other people's play styles in Call of Duty and how you can really play how you should want to play and stuff like that. But in that video, he showed his Battlefield stats. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've never actually seen that before. So I Googled like Battlefield 4 player stats. I wanted to like find my own stats online, maybe get, you know, be able to see my own. And I found this website called Battlefield4stats.com. If you guys would like to check it out, I definitely recommend it if you've actually played Battlefield 4 before. And if you go over there, you can see a ridiculous amount of stats. Like, it kind of reminds me of Call of Duty Elite. Like, do you guys remember Call of Duty Elite? Huh? You guys remember this? They ended up shutting it down, sadly. I used to love Call of Duty Elite. I used to be on that website all the time, just looking up random stats. I'd look up like the stuff for myself. I'd look up the stuff for my friends. I love looking at all the stats and numbers on there. So this is Battlefield4stats.com. If you guys want to check out, it's BF4stats.com. If you go over here, you just type in a player and you can type out like what console they're actually playing on. I went SP Nero of the Xbox One, so that's why I played Battlefield 4 on. Keep in mind, I haven't played Battlefield 4 in ages, but I did put a good amount of playtime, as you can see by the 113 hours of playtime I put into Battlefield 4. I used to play this game a lot. I was like borderline addicted to it for a while. But you go to this website and you can see just a ridiculous amount of stats. It reminds me a bit of Call of Duty Elite, but almost even more so than what we saw with Call of Duty Elite, because it gives you a ridiculous amount of information regarding your player. And it's kind of nice because, you know, obviously you don't want to focus too much about your KD ratio and your win-loss ratio, which my KD was like a 1.7 KD, 1.5 win-loss ratio. You don't want to care too much about that, obviously, so it kind of make the game not fun, but just all the little other stats that they keep track of is kind of nice. Like, apparently the longest kill streak I ever went on in Battlefield 4 was a 16 kill streak, which compared to Call of Duty, that's actually pretty good. You look at the longest headshot. Apparently I got a headshot from 142 yards away, or maybe they go by meters. I'm not entirely sure which one they do. How many vehicles I've destroyed, how much vehicle damage I've actually done. If you actually played recently, it will actually tell you like what percentage you're in. Like, I'm in the top like 2% for score or whatever. I'm just making these up. Top 20% for flag captures, top 80% for kill assists or something like that. You know, they have all these little pieces of information, these little factoids here, which I just think is a really, really cool thing. Go over here to game modes. You can see how much score you have in each individual game mode. You have random team stats here, like how many heals I've actually given if I'm playing like the medic, I'm throwing down health packs and whatnot, which I think is just really, really cool. And you look here at the different kits, and you look here, these are a bunch of different upcoming weapon unlocks that I could actually get, and these are going to be the different weapon categories. Like, for example, I can see assault rifles. Of all my time in Battlefield 4, I put in 27 hours running around with an assault rifle, 13 hours running around with a shotgun, almost 10 hours running around with a carbine, 6 hours running around with a PW. These are my kills I've got with PWs. These are my headshots. This is my headshot to kill percentage. This is my kills per minute. These are the amount of shots I've fired. These are the amount of hits I've actually gotten. This is my accuracy. These are all of my weapons, that I've ran around with, and these are all my stats for all the individual weapons. You can hit the show more here, and you can scroll down, and holy crap, look at that. There's just like a bunch of weapons in the game. I obviously haven't used every single weapon in the game, but there's a bunch of weapons actually there. You go down here to your kit items. We actually have an advertisement here for Wistia, which is a free video hosting for business. I'm gonna scroll down away from that because I'm not giving them free advertising. That's just silly. But we go up here to kit items here. You look at the first aid pack, and it actually shows you a little picture of the first aid pack. You got your defibrillator. I've revived 978 people with my defibrillator. I've healed 7,914, whatever that means, with the medic pack. Just little things like that. This is the amount of times I've resupplied people in my ammo box. Little things like that. I love all of the stats and information that are available to you on this website. I think that's a really cool thing, and I wish that there was a better version for Call of Duty. Call of Duty does have some websites that you can go to where you can try and look up player stats, but they're not nearly as in-depth as this, or not nearly as in-depth as what Call of Duty Elite was. Of course, they shut down Call of Duty Elite a couple of years ago, and I'm really sad to see that they got rid of that because I thought Call of Duty Elite was fun. It was one of those things where I would occasionally just go there, I'd look up my gamer tag, and I would just, look at all the different little factoids and stats that I have in the game. Like, I like looking up that kind of information, just a bunch of random stuff. If I want to look up exactly how many miles I've ran on foot, I think that'd be kind of a cool thing to look up. And I think it'd be cool if we could also learn a little bit more about the game itself and our playtime in it. Like, for example, what if they were to come out with a website similar to COD Elite for Black Ops 3, where we would have the ability to see how many times we've played on each individual map? What is our overall KD ratios on those maps? What's our win-loss ratio on those maps? What is the amount of kills we've gotten on that map? How many kills do we have with submachine guns on one particular map? Like, I would love for us to be able to see all these little nuggets of stats and these little pieces of information. That may just be me. I'm sure it's not going to appeal to the mass majority of people, but I think it's going to appeal to a good enough amount of people that it would be worth their time to actually try to implement something along these lines. I just think it'd be very nice. Of course, combat records are good. I love combat records in Call of Duty. I just think it would be cool if we were to have another website similar to COD Elite, or like a BlackOps3stats.com or something like that, where we were to have access to all of this information. I think that would be really cool. And again, I don't want it to be like, oh, you guys should focus on your stats because stats are everything. I don't think that. In fact, when it comes to Black Ops 3, I think it's going to be like the first Call of Duty in a very long time that I'm just not really going to pay too much attention to my KD ratio, my win-loss ratio. Over Call of Duty Ghost and Advanced Warfare, I've started to care less and less about my KD and my win-loss ratio, whereas, back in the day, if you guys have been following my channel for a very long time, that was like the biggest thing for me. I always wanted to have a crazy KD. I always wanted to have a crazy win-loss ratio. I wanted to put up the craziest scores. Over the past couple of years, it really hasn't been that for me. Over the past couple of years, it's been like, I just kind of want to run around, mess around with weapons, and have some fun. I do try to win most of the matches I'm playing. For me, if the objective is to win, I want to try to win, but I'm not going to get upset if we lose. I'm not going to get upset if I have a horrible KD ratio or something along those lines. I just want to play for fun, but I still think that knowing all these stats would be fun. I'm not trying to say, like, you guys should care about your KD, your win-loss, because I personally don't really care about mine either. I just care about all the other stats. I care about all those other little factoids and little nuggets of information that can just make you feel a bit more immersed within the game itself. If you want to be able to find out how many kills you have, using Advanced Warfare as an example, I want to know how many kills I have with the AK-12 while playing on the map Defender. Little things like that. I think it'd be cool if we were to have access to all of that information, but of course, maybe that'd be a lot of work on their end. I don't know exactly how they would implement something along these lines, but I think it would be pretty cool. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to conclude this little video for you guys. Just kind of saying that combat records, in my opinion, are a really cool thing. I like combat records because we can learn a bunch of information about ourselves as players, and we get to look up little random stats and facts. And if you watch sports, like if you watch football, and they always bring up those really random stats, like, oh yeah, he is actually 7-1 all time on Thursday night games when he's playing at home and stuff like that. Like all those little random factoids that they have. I think it's cool if we could learn that kind of stuff in Call of Duty and just all video games in general. I think access to information like that is a pretty cool thing. thing. Again, I understand that it's not for everybody, but for some of us out there, I think we really like access to that kind of information. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Remember to leave a rating. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.